welcome everyone. It's exciting to be here, and I think the idea behind this event is fantastic. We always say that an AIESECer is always an AIESECer, and today we're going to put that into practice. We're going to try to discuss and comment from several perspectives what happens after an AIESECer finishes his or her AIESEC career. And to do that, AIESEC Alumni International, in a team led by Mariel, put together a very, very good group of panelists where young alumni will comment on this in several panels. And for the start, we have no more, no less than our former president of AIESEC International, Abdo. I remember very well when I met him that he gave me all his name, so long name. And in the end, he said, but you can call me Abdo as everyone. And that's what I remember. It's much easier. And everybody knows Abdo, fantastic PAI from 3 years ago. And today, one of the youngest alumni we have, already on the professional life of his life. So he will give us the keynotes to start this event. Please be very welcome. And okay, we are virtual now, but please give a big applause to Abdo.
Thank you, dear Alberto. Appreciate it so much. I remember meeting up together also with all fantastic alumni back at Colombia, and I remember like looking at different alumni, all the things that they're doing, and feeling like, oh my God, you know, like one would wish to finish off their AIESEC journey and then continue being an AIESECer, just like the example that you and all other different alumni from previous generations showcase to us day in, day out. And I think that was one of the key driving motives for myself to remain in touch and to remain in true sense, always an AIESECer, as they say, once an AIESECer, always an AIESECer. You need people to role model that, and you need to be able to follow into footsteps of specific heritage and of that fantastic legacy that we have as an organization. So thank you so much, Alberto, for that humble introduction. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the team. Big kudos to the OC team that put this together, to Mariel, to the people from AIESEC International. Thank you so much for being able to make this space happen. And I hope we get to enjoy our time today with each other and get to have some constructive conversations that can really keep us in touch with that idea of what does it mean to say once an AIESECer, always an AIESECer. Is it just a motto? Is it just something that we were born into it with AIESEC, that we're used to thinking like that? But what does it mean to actually live with that type of perspective? I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but today I'm honored to be chairing this space, and I have the opportunity to share with you across different spaces. We're going to be having a lot, like a big plethora of conversations, being it from that little intro for this next hour. We're going to be hearing from different people that interacted with the organization. We're going to be able to hear more from younger AIESECers during the Hacking the Future spaces, and last but not least, move into a networking space where we have the opportunity to have the wider plethora of conversations, whatever ideas and prospects we have in mind. I'm not going to be long in my intro about myself because I have a space for that later to tell you, like, how was my journey in AIESEC? How was my journey after AIESEC? And how does everything tie up into that idea of once an AIESECer and always an AIESECer? But for now, I'm going to kick it off by leaving you with a little bit of a short video in this next slide, if we can go to it. beautiful video that touches specifically on that idea, right? It's a journey, it's a lifelong journey that we all fell in love with from that first moment. Maybe not for everyone from the first moment, but someplace across our AIESEC journey, we fell in love with this idea. We fell in love with this concept of being able to be part of this wholesome, beautiful organization centered around youth leadership development, centered around ideas such as compassion, empathy. We do not differentiate people based on narrative, background, border, religion, or creed. That doesn't matter for us. We all come together from all these different parts of the world and come under the same umbrella of values. That's a beautiful part of it. And who better to kind of kick us off into our space today than I was previous, just like Alberto mentioned, back in 2017, 2018, but who's better to kick us off than the future president of AIESEC International for the next year. So here's a message from our PAI-elect, Luis.
Hello everybody, my name is Louise and I'm the PAI-elect for 2022. So I wanted to welcome you guys to the LLC Space hosted by AIESEC Alumni International. I hope you guys really use this opportunity to really get to know everything that they're going to share with you guys about, opportunities, life after AIESEC, everything that has to do with transferring the skills and the experiences that you've had in AIESEC and how you can take that out into the world, no matter whatever path you go next, to work towards achieving peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. Hope you enjoy. Bye.
Thank you, dear Louise, for that little bit of a brief, short intro to kick us off into the day today. And just like Louise is saying, the idea here that we're talking about is that cross-generational cohesion. And I think that that's something that we came to learn more and more with the growth of the organization. I remember during my term, we used to always go out and say, imagine what would happen if since 1948 till the day that at that point in time in 2017, we're more than 1 million AIESECers out there, right? We kind of with a rough calculation, rough statistics, more than 1 million AIESECers out there. What would happen if we collectively come together and decide we want to do something, or collectively come together and decide to live by a common value system, which is that idea of always being an AIESECer? What kind of impact can that have on the world? And I think that idea for me was always extremely fascinating during my tenure as president of AIESEC International and beyond, which is how can we constantly keep in touch with that kind of imagine it like a battery. How can every once in a while can we refresh our juices, refresh our battery, and stay and keep in touch with that, with those sets of ideals and with that value system, and decide consciously day in, day out to lead the life of being an AIESECer. And I think that's what it means for me, the idea behind the journey of a lifelong connection. If we kick on further into it, I'll give you a little bit of what that means, maybe specifically to me, to my story as an individual. What does this mean for Abdu? Yeah, we all know, probably you were an AIESEC for a couple of years, then you were an AI, then you were a PAI. But what does that really mean into day-to-day practice? And in this next slide, you'll be able to see that usually when it comes to career prospects or where do we head in life, a lot of people think it's linear, right? Where we go to school, we go on an internship, you're associate manager, then you're executive. But it can also look like a very bumpy road, full of ups and downs and full of twists and turns and back and forths. And I think a very important thing that has been extremely important for me during this journey, or during the journey, at least in the past 12 years, just for perspective, I joined AIESEC back in 2009, right? So I might sound a little bit fresh, might sound a little bit back, but ended up staying in AIESEC for 10 years. Yeah. So did my time as an active AIESECer back then at that point in time. So I was an AIESEC through my school, finished school during my first job as an AIESEC. I did AIESEC in full time for almost 5 years between MC, then TAI. So a lot of the bulk of the building blocks of my career, at least initially, were built inside AIESEC. So, and I'd love for you to comment in the chat. Tell me more about your AIESEC experiences. How long did you stay in AIESEC when you joined? I know some people might have stayed some months, some people stayed for years. I know maybe we might have some people here that maybe outdid me and stayed for more than 10 years. So I have Mika, stayed for 7 years. That's a decently long amount of time. Marielle, 6 years. And we tried to headhunt you here and there for more jobs, left, right, and center. So you got 6 years, 7 years, 4 years, 6 years. Natalia Panchon, 4 years. So everyone here is decently stayed. Oh, there you go. Adonis beats my record over there. He stayed in AIESEC for 11 years. big kudos to you, my dear friend over there. 11 years, that's a lifelong time. 6 and counting. Alex Tiki, we're tied on that one, Alex. So 10 and 10, a decade each. Dorian says 6. So you see, like people come and go in AIESEC and they stay for different and various amounts of time, right? But some people were also like touched by this organization, even just by being in AIESEC for a year or two. Even something that is as simple as that can contribute heavily to changing someone's life. And in that perspective, I'll be sharing with you my journey. So I joined AIESEC in 2009, back when I was in Cairo University. So I was a graduate of Cairo University studying clinical pharmacy, completely focused on the idea of being the next generation of pharmacists that rock the world. And I was completely in deep belief that I want to go out there afterwards, work in research and be able to get a cure for cancer, etc. And that whole idealistic scenario. And during that time was when I joined AIESEC in Cairo University at the local chapter in 2009. I stayed in AIESEC in Cairo University between 2009 till 2013, which I got my first opportunity to become the local committee president of AIESEC in Cairo University. That happened in tandem while getting my first job after graduation. So I graduated and got the opportunity to work as a clinical research specialist at the Children's Cancer Hospital in Egypt. And I think that was an opportunity for me to really get in touch with the dream that I had as a person and see what does it mean really to have the privilege of health and well-being, right? Like every single day I would go to that hospital, see those kids and go back home and pray and thank God and be like, thank God for health. At least I can be able to utilize that to the full spectrum of my capacity to be able to benefit others and benefit people around me.
Great.
Around 2.5 years into the hospital, I was LCP, and then towards the end of my tenure as LCP, I got the opportunity to be on the MC team of AIESEC in Egypt in the capacity of organizational development. So I did 2 terms, 1 term as a member committee vice president, and then as country manager or MCP of AIESEC in Egypt. And throughout that time, as you can see, from 2009 all the way to 2015, living by the values of AIESEC, closely in touch with AIESEC. Then afterwards, moving from MC to being the region director of the Middle East and Africa. Big shout out to the Middle East and Africa, always in my heart. Spent the whole year traveling the region, Rep Titan Center, 33 countries. I've seen it all, brother. Like I've been from like Kenya to Uganda to like the full of East Africa to Tanzania to then moving on to Namibia. I've been to Benin, Togo, whatever it is. Just mention big shout out to all my Nigerian people out there, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Tunisia, Morocco, of course, the whole 9 yards, the whole thing. And AIESEC gave me that opportunity, right? Like I would have never seen this. I would have never been there, right? Like in my mind, like deep in the back of my head, I was like, I'm extremely privileged to be given the opportunity to see so much at such a young age, to see people in their natural environment, to see cultures in their natural environment and be able to relate to that and make that part of my story. By the time I was leaving AIESEC as president of AIESEC International, I had been to, okay, let's do a little bit of a trivia. How many countries do you think I would have been to by the time I was leaving AIESEC as president of AIESEC International? Remember, I stayed in AIESEC for 10 years, so that's relatively long. So maybe AIESEC sent me to a lot of countries. So let's do a little bit of guessing. 27, 39, 40, 30 plus, 50. Be a little bit more ambitious. 38, 50. Ooh, Kevin Morales, that was very close. 72, 80, 90. Ahmed Khamis says 105. I wish, brother. That's all of AIESEC, right? So a lot of people are rounding up around the close right number. 76 countries and territories. I got the opportunity to explore with AIESEC, right? And I think that the key bottom line there, while I was applying for president of AIESEC International, was me seeing that the more you see with this organization, the less you know, the more humble you become. You travel, you see people, you see cultures, 76 countries and territories, and I finished my experience feeling that I know very few. And you feel that you know very few because compared to the larger narrative of what we are as humankind, you feel very, very small. And the more exposed you are to that, the more humble you become. And AIESEC gave me that opportunity. During my tenure as PI, AIESEC gave me the opportunity to be on some of the grandest stages that I could ever imagine in my life. And I never would have imagined to be there, whether be it at the United Nations, General Assembly, whether be it at like something like Global Compact Conference or Global Shapers Conference with Bill and Melinda Gates. It was just massive. It was much more massive than a young person can be able to understand and sink in. And then comes that moment when you're leaving AIESEC, right? You're stepping outside of your AIESEC journey, finishing my tenure as PAI, and you feel a lot of pressure coming on board, the pressure of expectation. Okay, so now spent 10 years in AIESEC, did a lot of stuff. The organization gave me the opportunity to literally be a young rising leader. And now there's the expectation of where am I going to step next? And with that came a little bit of confusion. So I went off and I started a small company that does learning and development solutions for corporates. It's called the Leadership Factor. And we tried a little bit with that when we were selling B2B services. In the same time, I was consulting with another firm that empowers entrepreneurs here in Egypt called Rise Up. And basically it acts as an accelerator for different startups in the ecosystem. And at the same time, I was like, okay, but I'm really into consulting. So I went with another couple of partners and founded a consulting firm. And I was just like, I was all over the place. I was just feeling, okay, like I just need to do everything as much as I can to be able to fulfill those expectations. But at the end of the day, I remember that within like 2 years of being outside of AIESEC, I was feeling extremely overwhelmed. And with that spectrum of responsibilities and with that spectrum of this, like diversifying myself, I was extremely thin. But I still give AIESEC and I hold AIESEC back to giving me even those opportunities, because both of my co-founders on that consulting firm in Vienna, I met at conferences with AIESEC. The peeps in Rise Up, their VP people, talent management, was on the MC team of Switzerland. Her name is Baram. And then she just headhunted me out of that. And both my partners for Leadership Factor were AIESEC is. But I was spread so thin. And I remember at that point in time, AIESEC still again threw at me another opportunity. And that was the opportunity to be able to study and further my business acumen, further my career. And I found the peeps from Schwartzman Scholars reaching out to me. They were like, yeah, we saw you before in a conference. You're the president of AIESEC International, and we're thinking of offering you a scholarship to study and continue your education. I was like, oh, that sounds very interesting. So I jumped on the opportunity, ended up living for a year in China on a Sino-American scholarship at Tsinghua University, studying public policy specifically in the field of entrepreneurship. And again, that was an opportunity that I got because of AIESEC. And then after finishing my master's, I was like, okay, now let's calm down a little bit. Let's try to bring a little bit of focus. So I did a little bit of consulting and work with Facebook for almost around 8 months, an opportunity that was introduced to me by some fellow AIESECers that were working at Facebook. And then my moment came, right? Like my moment to build the thing that I would like to see myself working for or working with for the next 5 or 10 years. That moment came. But that moment came like long after me leaving AIESEC. I left AIESEC back in 2018, and that moment only came last year, where with a couple of people from AIESEC International, from the team that is before me, we founded this startup called Educating. And I need to tell you guys, like the full plethora of everything that has to do with this startup and its success is one way or another related to AIESEC. My co-founders are AIESECers. My first 3 hires were AIESECers. My first angel investor is an AIESECer from AIESEC in Germany. Big shout out to Gunther Dunkel. And the full spectrum of everything that pushed us along this journey. Gunther, fantastic, but beautiful person, and he's on our board, serving on our board currently. The full spectrum of what pushed and propelled this journey at different points in time was interactions or connections, be it through AIESEC or AIESEC propelling or giving you opportunities to be able to further that journey. That journey was not streamlined, and it's not straightforward. It's not linear. It's full of it's full of ups and downs. It's full of back and forth, like I said. And at points in time, it was full of confusion. But the key common denominator was AIESEC as a platform continuously giving you the opportunity to be able to push yourself forward as long as you pay it back. As long as you live by those values, you'll be able to find people that share similar values and that will be able to push you forth on your journey. And I think for me, like when Marielle and the other people were talking to me about the idea of like, let's talk about the LLC day, what would you like to share? I think that the key thoughts that I had in my mind to share, I break them down into 3 key pointers. First pointer is, I think that one of the most valuable things that I got out of my AIESEC experience was being part of the network of like-minded people that have unlimited capacity and unlimited potential to support you across whatever it is domain that you decide to embark on. So always bank on that network. If you do your dues, right? If you keep in touch with those individuals, nurture those relationships, and live by those true values, you have that network of like-minded people with similar values that would be more than willing to jump, to help whenever you need that support. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is the more you pay forward, the more you keep living like an AIESECer and pay forward that lifelong journey of contributing to society, contributing to other young people, the more society, young people will contribute back. So these are 2 key pointers for me. First point is nurture your network always. Second point is continuously pay it forward and keep paying it forward. Because AIESEC is extremely generous. And because of that generosity, you need to be generous also yourself. And last but not least is always keep an open mind to learn, to explore. Your learning journey doesn't stop inside AIESEC itself. Think of it as peaks and troughs, right? Think of AIESEC as the first mountain that you climbed at the beginning of your professional journey, and you climb it. And some people make LCVP, LCP, some people make MC, national committees, some people make AI, and that's a mountain that you're climbing. And as soon as you're leaving AIESEC, it's time to descend, right? Like that was the first hilltop that you climb. You descend, but you're at a higher state than the state where you started your journey. And then you start climbing the next mountain. That could be a mountain of education. That could be a mountain of entrepreneurship, your first job. And you climb that mountain. Make sure that where you descend from that mountain is higher than the state where you started. So they continuously become peaks and troughs, but they are going in an upwards or trending in an upwards direction. And that's how I saw it. Because again, like I said, it's not linear, and it's not like a walk in the park and that everything is going to be fine. And yeah, everything is going to be fine eventually, but some things take more time than others. Christina says, network is really fantastic. Angel investors, coaches, mentors, trainees, exactly 100%. It is definitely full of those. And if I focus just specifically on a snippet or a snapshot in time, I remember that the first individual to inspire me to become an entrepreneur was a previous PI in AIESEC. His name is Hugo Pereira. Big shout out to Hugo Pereira, wherever you are with EVBox. He was the first individual to come to us. He came to the AI office, was talking to the AIESEC International members. I remember I was doing these kind of like career days towards the end of our journey, and we were like bringing different alumni to talk to us about what are career prospects that we can embark on. And I remember Hugo talking about like his entrepreneurial journey, failing his first startup, then landing at EVBox and doing a fantastic job there. And I was like, yeah, maybe I want that. Like I'm a risk-prone individual. I'm willing to take such risks, seeking for fantastic upsides. But most importantly than ever, I want to go out there and build something from 0 to 1 that can have a positive contribution and a positive impact on society. So being that the narrative, hence making the decision of becoming an entrepreneur, and we can discuss more about that later during the panels. But whether that decision was to become an entrepreneur, whether that decision was to join government, whether that decision was to directly go and study, continue my education, whether that decision was to take on an internship in a corporation or to work for a bank, every single one of those decisions is a good decision, as long as you make it a good decision. So I'm not here to come and promote entrepreneurship and be like, it's all about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the future. Yeah, well, it is the future in a way, but also having young people that are active, politically engaged, and that are advocates in government is the future. Having young people that can come in and transform corporations through digitization, etc., inside out, that is the future. So in every single domain that you would jump onto, you can make it the future one way or another. Exactly, like Christina says, you have to be everywhere. And if all of us were entrepreneurs, then who are going to be the consumers? And if all of us were entrepreneurs, who are going to be the third-party providers? And if all of us were entrepreneurs, who's going to govern? Because we need that diversity. So at the end of the day, it's not one career path versus the other. It is about pursuing what you feel as an individual as the step that you want to take, and without worrying a lot about it being the right step. Eventually, it will be the right step, even if it doesn't seem so at the moment where you're taking it. Another tip out there is more for like what I would call more seasoned ISECers, people that have longer plethora of experiences. Like I've seen incredible support of what it means to be a lifelong ISECer from such individuals. Dude, like I've seen ISECers that were back in ISEC in like 1970, 1981, 1982, supporting it as angel investors, taking cuts out of their own savings and investing in startups that are built by ISECers. I've seen them give free time to support the mentorship capacity, helping people with their more seasoned experience to build like financial models, etc. I've seen them jumping on projects with NGOs all over the place to try to contribute back to society. So my talk is not mainly directed at just young ISECers. My talk is for ISECers in a cross-generational perspective. Every single one of us has a little bit of a piece of the puzzle to contribute, according to your energy, according to your resources, and according to your perspective on what you can bring to the table. Sometimes it can be something that is as simple as donating 5 to 10 minutes of your time to support a younger ISECer on figuring out their direction, or something that is as extensive as what Dr. Gunther did with us, which is actually invest your time, money, and effort in a young ISECer that is willing to become an entrepreneur and build a startup. So Roy is saying, I appreciate the fact that you're underselling entrepreneurship while everyone else is idolizing it. Man, you know what? Like, because we all like buzzwords, right? Like we jump on buzzwords like these. We live in a generation of like TikTok and Facebook and social and whatever it is that is trending, everyone wants to be part of. But like, I'm still a massive pro. Like I did my MPP not because I want to become an entrepreneur. I did my MPP because I want to join government later further down the pipeline. The fact that I'm an entrepreneur today does not negate that other fact that I believe in the role that young people have to play in advocacy and in governance and being part of the political atmosphere. You know what I mean? So I think balance is the most important thing. It's not about overselling or underselling a specific aspect of a journey, but it's rather about that balance of looking at things from a multidimensional perspective, I would say. Okay, we still got a couple of minutes before I run you into your next round of panels, which we're going to introduce in a second. But before doing so, I'd love to open the floor and start hearing some of your questions, or maybe some of the thoughts that you have about what I've been sharing so far in the past maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Someone's sharing music. But okay, let's go. Raed, long time no see, brother. I really appreciate it. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you as a face here. And then we're gonna go afterwards with Ahmed Khamis and then Maria. Let's start with Raed. Yalla, bro.
Thank you, bro. You're one of the reasons why, like I said, I cannot miss this. It's a personal question. Was there a moment or a couple moments where you felt that, hey, I've been for ISEC for too long and I feel that my ISEC experience is useless, and kind of like I missed a lot of times and I missed out on a lot of other opportunities? Because I honestly felt, and I've been through that, and I want someone to, like, I want to share this experience with someone else, and I want to hear it from you.
Yeah. Let me give a bit of perspective for that. So first of all, big kudos, Raed, fantastic creative individual. If anyone is looking for a creative advisor, my man here is the go-to. Awesome individual. Utilized him a lot during my term, and obviously a big fan. Look, my friend, like across the 10 years, I'm gonna tell you something. Like there is numerous times where I thought of quitting or kicking back. You know, like especially at the latter end of my career in ISEC, when I would see like, okay, so I'd see my friends jumping on board, finishing school, going to work, you know, for the biggest health tech operator in the world and earning tons and tons of money. And I'm basically barely making minimum salary of my country. And then we start questioning a lot, right? And then getting exposed to all those young people who are going to work for like McKinsey's and BCG's and like all that crazy stuff. And you're like, oh, what am I doing with my time? Why am I doing this? But I tell you, man, like I'm not a big fan of like words like the light at the end of the tunnel, but it does pay off. It does pay off if you're smart enough about utilizing your AIESEC journey, about making the right moves and about learning the right things. I think maybe for me as a pharmacist, because I come from a different background, AIESEC was a great opportunity to propel a career shift, right? Like I learned everything I learned about business, management, modeling, finances, all of that I learned in AIESEC. And I wanted to learn those things to be able to propel a career afterwards in entrepreneurship. That's first thing. Second thing, I was very aware of my network. I started being more and more aware of my network to be able to leverage and utilize that network at the moment where I exit. So always remind yourself of the upside, right? If there is no clear upside, I always ask myself one question, Yarad, to be able to continue on AIESEC, which is, what can I be through AIESEC and what can AIESEC be through me? And at the intersection between those two things is where I always found my answers. But more important than what can AIESEC be through me, which is what I'm contributing, is what can I be through AIESEC? What is in it for me? And being clear on that set of things and prioritizing them was as important as prioritizing my community work and my contribution to society. Maybe that gives you a little bit of perspective. So next up we'll go with our lineup is Ahmed Khamis, then we have Marius, then we have Dorian, then we have Mr. Alex, and I'm going to close with Mr. Alex. So, Ahmed Khamisi, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you? It's been so long. Like the last time was TLC, I guess.
TLC, buddy.
Yeah.
TLC, buddy.
So the question is here: how much do you think that if the members of the current AIESEC, let's say, are being interacted with the alumni, how much do you think that this will actually help them in their journey? Because this is actually the first interaction between me and the alumni. And I think actually, like from attending only this session or this meeting, I think we should be doing that a lot actually with the members. It motivates a lot, and maybe through some sort of inspiration. So the question is, how much do you think if you were interacting with alumni back then more, how much do you think it would have affected your journey?
Bro, I'll just give you a very flat out perspective and hear me about it. I'm not trying to be a preacher, but since that time when I was LCP, I used to utilize my supervisory group like they hated me, because I would make my team call them all the time. Anything that I would bring them on time for the monthly meetings on point. They hated me. Alex hated me when I was in AI because I would call him all the time. I would go jump and meet him in Vienna. He was like, that PI, I hate that guy. I want nothing to do with that guy. And we always tried to bring that bond together. So all the way from when I was LCP till being PI, I maintained the same narrative towards, bro, like my wife was on my supervisory group. That's all I'm going to tell you. When I was MC, like my current wife was on my supervisory group when I was MCP, right? Like Hadid, she was on my SG. So she used to coach me. Maybe I'm a kind of guy that likes to be coached, but like, that's not the point. But like, you get what it was that intimate of a relationship that my different teams had with those alumni. And the key reason behind that was because we saw value, right? If you make them as their leader see value in those conversations, they will jump on it. Those individuals that are more seasoned and more experienced, what they can bring to the organization. People come and ask me, why was AIESEC University doing 1,000 exchanges when everyone else was doing like maximum on a good day, 400 exchanges? Why? Because we were capable of thinking outside of the box, right? That outside of the box cannot come when you're just focused on your day-to-day operations and that's all that you can see. If you bring in a group of individuals and they can contribute that different narrative, you can challenge your perspective, it will lead to growth. But you need to align those two thoughts in the same time. And then of course they can end up being your wife or husband. That's a different conversation. But I hope that answers your question. Let's move on from that. Thank you, Mr. Rahman. Let's move on to Dorian. What's up, brother? You're muted, buddy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining from India.
From India? Far out.
Yes.
Okay, but
it's PM right now. So I'm very honored to be here. I wouldn't miss this event, especially when I'm doing this wrong. That's a great compliment for you. What I wanted to ask you personally is, was there a moment when where you before you start your personal company, your personal startup? Was there a moment where you felt you were not good enough, even though you have this huge AIESEC network that you believe so much that there will be a backup for you? I mean, a support system for you. Was it a very slight moment where you felt you were not good enough to start this journey? That's it. Thank
I think that key moment, thank you so much, Dorian, for your question. It's really, really on point. And I was sharing about that, like, especially that moment where I was leaving AIESEC and embarking on my first steps, right? Like that first job, that first internship, etc. After AIESEC comes with a lot of pressure and comes with a lot of expectation. So even though I was leaving AIESEC as president of AIESEC International, I was still feeling like, oh my God, am I gonna be able to make it or not? Maybe I made it inside the AIESEC bubble, but am I gonna be able to make it when I'm actually taking steps out there outside of AIESEC? Am I gonna be able to stay true to my values? Or I'm just gonna jump on the first opportunity and just completely lose and dismantle my value system to be able to create economic gain? So I think that moment of confusion is typically normal. And as they say, for every convergence, for you to be able to arrive at a moment of creation, or to arrive at a moment where you're creating something as remarkable or fantastic, or for just even for yourself to create success, you need first to converge, you need first a lot of divergence. So you need to, like what you would call constructive confusion. You questioning a lot, questioning everything that's around you, questioning different opportunities, trialing and erroring and failing, and that's completely fine. And reminding yourself that at such a moment, it's completely fine to fail. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, or 50, it's still completely fine to fail as long as you're capable of generating out of it enough learning to be able to pay it forward into your next opportunity and create success out of it. And I'm not preaching, man. Like, I'm really not preaching. Those are really bad times. Super down, super confused. But I think that something clearly that helped me was my support system, right? Having the right people around you to coach and mentor you, to challenge you, to support you and be your confidence, and last but not least, to be your cheerleaders, man. Sometimes we need cheerleaders in life. Someone that can give you a pat on the back and be like, you know what, Dorian, you're gonna be fine, man. And I think that was the most important thing for me at that point in time. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for that question. Moving on. Now we take on Marius. Hello, sir.
Hello, Ayman. How are you doing? So I'm joining from Benin Republic. Former, I used to be MCP, then went to GIP India and worked in the charity world, an American NGO, and finally set up my startup. So basically, I wanted to share. Thank you. And I enjoy hearing from you in your rich experience. What I wanted to share relates to your perspective on, like, it's a mountain we are climbing. So one thing I notice is when you join AIESEC and when you have been through a lot of responsibilities, MCP, LCP, AI, maybe when you sit down, you might be in the bubble. You might think, in my opinion, like, oh, I'm a superman, or maybe I'm a powerful person and I cannot start from the scratch, right? And I see that happening to many MCPs, which is basically not realizing they have to start maybe in a company, they have to prove themselves. If they are not joining, say, these GIP global partners and then get a contract, something like that. But if they have to come back to their home country, even in another country, there is a need to learn again and to learn to be humble, because you are now starting in a company. You are not going to be, director or whatsoever right after being MCP or after being something, right? So people need to start again. You need to show humility, you need to show resilience and the learner's mindset. So that's one thing I want to show. But again, when you're doing it, you are not starting from the scratch, right? That relates to your, it's a mountain, you climb to a certain level, you come down a little bit, and then you start again. But you need to demonstrate humility. And that's one thing I want to really share with people here. So even if you are MCP and you come back, remember you are going to start again somehow, and you need to show that humility and energy to learn. Yeah, thanks.
Super. Super, Marius. Really, really on point. I love the perspective, love the sharing. It's really on point, right? That idea of keeping your feet on the ground, maintaining humility is key for you to be able to progress in the minimum life. And I cannot agree more with Marius. Thank you so much. So before I move on to Alex, my dear friend, I want to give a big shout out to Ken Ken Phillips from Boston, who was, his traineeship was 60 years ago. He was 8 years in AIESEC, 12 years in AAI, and was the NCP of AIESEC in the US in 64 to 66. So very, very big shout out to you, Ken. And I hope you're having a good time with us so far.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you a question, Ken, before I proceed. Now we're kind of like flipping the script where I'm asking you questions. If you would allow me to ask you one question, what keeps you coming? Like 60 years ago, you're still excited about these AIESEC events. You're still excited to join, even if it's online. What keeps you going?
I guess it's what needs to be done. I mean, for me, it started with my mom, my dad and mom. My father said, whatever you do, do it well. My mom said, Kenny, whatever you do something good. And then I fell into AIESEC and it changed my life and I never left it. So I didn't do the countries you did in 5 years, but I hit 101 a couple of years ago with Vietnam and Cambodia and Hong Kong.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm infected with the AIESEC virus. That's why. We have to do this. This world is, excuse me, screwed up.
Go ahead. Yeah, it is. It is. That's true.
And we need good leaders. We need better leaders. And AIESEC makes better leaders. It's an exciting place to be. I'm writing 6 books. Actually, it just turned into 7.
Wow. Wow, that's beautiful to hear, Ken. Wow, that's exciting. That's an exciting twist for this session that I did not expect for sure. Ken, you made my day today, giving me hope I can make those 100 someday afterwards. I really, really appreciate that. But more than anything, like I think that just that enthusiasm, right? Like that just off of that simple thought of like your parents, your dad telling you to do right, your mom telling you to do good, and then you just carrying forth all this time with that set of values and then keeping it through AIESEC. How can someone remain so in touch with their values? Because it's very easy to lose in these times, right? Like I could go work for whatever company and just completely lose my value system. What do you think kept you so in touch with your value system even such years afterwards?
I mean, the slogan when I was in AIESEC was we were going to save the world for freedom, democracy, and free enterprise, we called it. And that was incredibly motivating. And then, you know, my coming of age was in the 1960s, which was a great time in this country, the US. Didn't do enough, but it made great progress on, you know, changing the world for many white people and many Black people. It was the beginning of the women's movement, the beginning of the gay rights movement. It was an incredible generation, 10 years. And I think we're about to join that one in the United States right now. I think there's a lot of pent up real anger about what the heck has happened these last years. Where is our democracy? And I think, you know, my wife and I are campaigning for our local candidate for mayor. She's from Korea.
That's super cool.
She's great. She's wonderful.
That's super cool to hear. No, I think that's super cool to hear, Ken. Like, you know, like, and also how you still pay forward.
Wherever you are, you can change the world. Big ways, little ways. A beach is great because it has many pieces of sand and many actions to make this a better world for people and for the planet. It's up to everybody in our work, our volunteer work, where we live, and even in our family.
That's beautiful to hear, Ken. Thank you so much for your contribution, jumping in. I just took you on the spot just like that, but I'm sure that everyone loved to hear your contribution. So thank you so much for that, dear. Ken is the future version of that's. I wish, man. I wish it would be my honor and my pleasure to be like Ken later on in the day. So thank you so much, Ken, for that. And now I'm gonna take one last contribution from Alex. And Alex, how's it going, buddy? Where are you driving to?
Yeah, well, I'm just heading back home from the mountains, middle of Austria, heading back home from vacation. And after all, my friend, let me just put one record straight. Whenever you reach out to me, or whenever we had conversation, I loved it and I was very happy about that. And I
Thank
think
you, sir.
exactly that's the way how it should be, because we are here to exactly do so, to support whenever we can. I hear quite a noise in the background. Could we just mute
It's gone.
who's not speaking?
It's
Thank you
gone
very
now.
much. Okay.
It's gone, sir.
So let me just put one thing up to from my perspective. We have been doing loads of service, and you said about the like-minded people you meet in the network. I couldn't agree more. AIESEC is about people, and that's the most precious asset we have, and that's actually the biggest contribution of our people. When we do surveys and when we boil it down, what is AIESEC for you in 5 words? What is AIESEC for you in 3 words? At the end of the day, when we boil it down to 1 word, it's most likely friendship. And friendship is the key change agent if we want to come close to our vision of peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. And most people in this call share the same values and are friends. And I think this is the basement, the strong foundation we build up on our organization, and that will not change in 1,000 years. Back to you, Abdo.
Love you, brother. I appreciate it so much. And a big shout out again to Alex. Like, whenever I used to go to Vienna, I would spend at least one night at that guy's home. And he wouldn't give me the couch. He gave me a full, beautiful room with a bathroom in the attic. So very big shout out to you, Alex. That beautiful home and that beautiful family of yours. I wish I'd be able to visit you at Vienna sometime. Okay, I have time for one last sharing before we need to jump into the breakouts. That's some fantastic sharing so far. It's been extremely inspiring. So I'm gonna go with one more sharing from Joel Santos, if I'm pronouncing your name correct.
Yes,
I'm not butchering it. If I'm butchering, I completely apologize.
No, you got it exactly straight. You know, I'm from the Philippines. I'm currently in Boston now, so I do like to shout out and meet up with Ken. So I'm visiting the US just to get updated with what's happening in the world, right? So one of the things I want to share, I've only been back in AIESEC 2 years ago. I was LCP in 1991 in Ateneo in the Philippines, and then so I'm giving back as chairman of the board of the board of advisors. And one of the things I have to say is that in my pivot today, in my edutech company, the resources I need are mostly AIESECers. So we have to reorganize ourselves. So an AIESECer is helping me reorg, you know, consulting with me. My special projects head, my right hand is from AIESEC. So I think more than anything, I just wanted to share that in this time where we're all living in a VUCA world, right? I think the AIESEC network is our lifesaver, right? And so I'm really excited to be here and being a panelist, and just hearing this thing is just like energy. It's like I'm back in college. So thank you for this opportunity. And I'm gonna ask more alumni to actually come back. It's like, this is really great. Thank you.
Super. Thank you so much, Joel. I really, really appreciate it, and hope you have a fantastic day. Okay, so right on time, it's at the 59th minute, my time. So we got 1 minute, and then we're going to be jumping into the panel spaces. What to expect in these panel spaces? Expect to be able to, if you can click next on the slides, you can expect in these panels to be able to hear more from AIESECers and alumni in corporate life. So we got first panel is our corporate life panel. We got, as you can see, big plethora there of AIESECers. So big shout out to the peeps that I know. Like I know everyone in this picture. That's very interesting. Okay, so big shout out to all the peeps in the corporate life panel, leadership when you're not the boss. Next up, we're going to be having the education and coaching panel, which I'm going to be jumping on board of also, just to try to give a little bit of contribution there. What does it mean to work in the education sector? Why is it important? EdTech, all these new savvy things, what's happening there. The second panel. Third panel, working at government. I wish someday I could join these people. Someday, just do some entrepreneurship, and then someday join these people working in a public sector role. Dream come true. Being able to influence and shape policy, advocating in your local community, even if it's something that is as simple as being a grassroots movement that advocates for something that you really believe in. Next up, so we have a working at government panel, entrepreneurship and social business panel, super exciting. You're going to hear from some of the most exciting entrepreneurs that we have in our young alumni bunch. We're going to be hearing from Dorian a little bit more also, maybe there about what he does. And last but not least, we're going to be having the leadership at NGOs and communities panel. So peeps that are working on grassroots, that are working to be able to kind of like make this world a little bit place directly through their contribution and through their actions. So as you can see, 5 very exciting panels: corporate life, education coaching, working at government, entrepreneurship and social business, and last but not least, leadership at NGOs. Super. So we're going to be jumping on board of that for the upcoming, that's going to be the upcoming 60 minutes, upcoming hour. And then after that, we're going to reconvene again for what we would call our coffee time and networking space. So until then, I'll leave you now and let's activate these panels, please.